We are going to shift to the audience, to questions for the audience. I believe Donna has an introduction to share first.
So we did say one thing you talked about the controversy, but we want to make sure that you have the most accurate information, and that's what I'd like to present first. So Sound of Freedom was conceived by Mexican director Alejandro Gomez Monteverde in 2015, and he filmed it in 2018. Monteverde had intended to write a fictional movie about child trafficking, but he changed it to a story based on the real-life efforts of former DHS agent Tim Ballard once the two met. The film was shot for 21st Century Fox, but it was shelved in 2019 once Disney acquired the studio. In 2023, Utah-based Angel Studios raised $5 million via crowdfunding to acquire the rights and distribute the film. Angel Studios was founded by 5 Mormon brothers, and Tim Ballard is also a Latter-day Saints church member. The film became the sleeper hit of the summer. It was not aired on Netflix or Amazon because Angel Studios did not offer it to them. Sound of Freedom is a straightforward action-adventure film that does not mention QAnon or any other conspiracy theories. Its director has nothing to do with QAnon. Tim Ballard has disavowed QAnon. However, the actor who plays Tim Ballard in the movie, Jim Caviezel, in 2021 promoted the bizarre and debunked QAnon theory that the children who are kidnapped they're kidnapped to harvest from their blood the fear-producing chemical adrenochrome, which global elites, in quotes, inject to stay healthy and young. Now, to continue, Tim Ballard quietly resigned from Operation Underground Railroad in June without giving a reason. So one person on this call has said that the reason was, so as far as I can understand, in order to work with other groups as well. But during this past week, Rolling Stone reported that Ballard stepped down amid accusations by 7 women that he had made inappropriate sexual advances. Ballard has denied these accusations, and OUR is conducting a comprehensive investigation. Sound of Freedom has become thoroughly enmeshed in the culture wars. Many people discussed in the media on the right have embraced the film, while some people discussed in the media on the left have criticized it. So, okay, that's what I wanted to share at the beginning. And we'll now turn to Ivan for our first question to audience members.
So Donna, just remind people of the protocol of Braver Angels, LAPP, our procedure and stuff.
Right,
and then
so,
we'll get on. Yeah.
Sure. So we are here to listen and to understand rather than to persuade and argue. We use the raise hand function. We are respectful to each other. We make room for quieter members as well. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Ron, to that?
No, it's just, remember, we're trying to have a civil dialogue, and that's what Brave Angels is all about. And, I know it's a controversial, like Donna was just saying about the introduction and everything, but, and we want your perspective, because that's what Braver Angels is, and that's what we are about. But what we don't want is disrespect. And so if we can, everyone here can honor that by just putting your hands up and smile at old Sugar Bear, then you make him happy. Thank you. So anyway, go for it, Ivan.
Thank you so much, Ron. Yeah, Ivan?
All right, thank you. I guess I have the lead-off audience question, which we always try to do. What did you think of this film? Come on, everybody saw it, right? Oh, Rita, you're the first.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was really thankful that we were able to catch it because it had been on for so long. And I thought that it was going to have a real limited, air playing. And so Mike and I just saw it, I don't know, two weeks ago. So I really enjoyed it. Now I pay attention to some of that now. I haven't for several years, but I've heard about child sex trafficking in different areas. We lived in Louisiana for a short period of time, and there was some rumor going around that, there was some going on down in New Orleans, and of course, there wasn't anything official, but I could very well see with the father being a single father, I'm thinking to myself, I would never bring my girls to a place that would, but that would with strangers and leave them for that amount of time. But that's a real different situation. This single father is trying to help his daughter pursue her dreams, I guess. And yeah, it was kind of shocking in a way to me because of the players that were involved. That was real disappointing. I mean, the actual people that were actually involved in real life. I mean, I still did not understand watching it. I still did not understand I was trying to discern from watching it what the big uproar might have been, but I could not determine anything from just seeing the film itself.
Yeah, I think I had the same kind of reaction. It's not in the film, it's about everything outside of the film. Molly, did you want to jump in?
I'll just say something really briefly. I thought it was incredibly powerful. I'm so glad to see a mainstream film on this issue. I feel like years ago when I first learned about child slavery and trafficking, which actually just because not about sex slavery, because I only know a little about that before the film, but about trafficking in the chocolate industry and cacao. I had not encountered almost anyone who had heard of child trafficking, and I'm really glad that this is highlighting like a huge issue and showing just the scale of it. One thing that I was disappointed by, and this is just because I'm like a real stickler for historical facts, is this story is dramatic enough. There were like huge swaths of it that they just made up a scene or two or a few. I always, every time I see a historical film of any kind, I always look at the different fact-checking sites online. And like, there were some really dramatic things in the film that were just made up. And that bothered me because not everybody does the fact-checking sites. And I thought, well, like, this story is amazing and powerful and incredible and inspiring. Why do they put in extra scenes that were like involving him killing someone that didn't happen, or involving him rescuing this one person on this one forest jungle that didn't happen, And so that was one disappointment to me, but that's not inherent to the film itself. I'm a stickler for like historical facts and wish that every historical film didn't like add drama where there wasn't need. I mean, child trafficking is very dramatic. So I wish that they hadn't added more drama where it just felt unnecessary. So that's all.
Well, I think that's what based on a true story means.
Fair enough, but
Right.
like people don't know then what's real and what's not. I might not know about fact-checking movies, So.
Right. Okay, how about Renee?
Take it in
Thank
order, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Oh,
is that not me, Renee? I'm really Renee, but I don't.
Yeah,
Oh.
go ahead, Renee, but then Cheryl will be up next, Ivan. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry if I'm. I was just surprised. I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful movie, but actually I saw the movie after I saw a Jordan Peterson interview of Jim Caviezel and Tim Ballard. In other words, Jim Caviezel is the actor who plays Tim Ballard in the movie. And this was a discussion of the whole thing. And honestly, the movie is far less graphic, less horrendous than the true trafficking information that was shared among the three of them in this interview. But I think they were trying, it is Angel Studios, and they are trying to get it on the screen so that the average American can see it, what is going on, or some, part of what is going on. It is pretty horrendous, but then to hear not like NPR, my favorite radio station, a liberal radio station, sort of going off on them. I just was shocked by it. And I feel like I don't really understand the dynamics of the controversy underlying it. But there is a controversy, and I was hoping somebody here might have a better understanding of it than I.
yeah. Well, maybe someone will.
Okay.
Cheryl, I'm sorry if I bypassed you.
That's okay. Hello to everybody. The film was extremely powerful. And because it's a movie, of course, they're telling a story, but they're basing it on true stories. And the way they were able to make sure that it was not so graphic, but you knew the evil that was occurring. So I thought they did an extremely wonderful job of all of that, to really get the point across in a way that was not going to, so it could be easily digested by everybody. I don't find this to be something that needed to be as controversial as everyone has tried to make it out to be. The backstory and, you know, going after the actors specifically, or what they said or didn't say or believed in. I mean, that to me is a lot of noise. I just think that you need to focus on the evil that's occurring and then come up with some ideas of how it's happening, what we can do to combat it, and come up with policies and ways of looking at what's making this worse and what we can do to stop it. So for me, it's just a matter of let's deal with the issue and not the noise.
Yeah, good point. Don, I think I saw you early on too. How about you coming in?
Yeah, I think I changed my question like 2 or 3 times because people have said a lot of things that I was thinking. But a couple of things occur to me. I listen to NPR a lot too, and but if you just trace where these criticisms are coming from, I wonder if some of it's due to the idea that this is being produced by a Christian production company, and that they're being kind of nitpicky to a film that they wouldn't otherwise have a problem with. I thought it was a good movie, and it was certainly a compelling story. And I thought that the little girl was incredible. That was an incredible acting job, given the probability that she had no idea truly the context in which she was acting. And yet at the same time, she was able to really put over that sort of sense of horror that a young girl might be thinking about in that situation. But I do think that there's some over criticism of this because of the source, and I was pleasantly surprised when I saw the movie, because I was expecting what I was hearing in various media outlets. The couple other things that I was wondering is, one, unrelated to sex trafficking, but related to child exploitation. There's the situation that we have right now with these meatpacking plants and their use of child labor. And I was wondering if that comes under the purview of child trafficking. And the other thing that I was wondering about is you have politicians that are talking about public school teachers and public school staff engaging in quote unquote grooming activities. And I was wondering how that, I guess I didn't want to put the guest speaker on the spot, but I wonder how that dilutes the message that they're trying to say about real grooming. So that's what I had to say.
All right. I think we have a lot of people here, and I want to get as many people to participate in this. How about one more, and then I'll shift gears slightly. Last on this particular opening questions, how about Susan?
Thank you. Hi, guys. Couple of things, Molly. There is an actual documentary about, it's called Operation Tucson. It's from Operation Underground Railroad, did start using that. That's how we were trying to get the word out about child sex trafficking. And one of our greatest challenges is it's such a horrific topic. Nobody wants to hear about it. And I showed that movie to several different groups just to get awareness out there. And it was boring, quite honestly. And it just didn't take off. And I don't care so much the movie part of it, but the fact that people are understanding now a little bit more about what's happening. So that's, if you want like some more historical, it's Operation Toussaint. The thing with the conspiracy theory about why there's so much controversy over this is human trafficking is the second fastest growing criminal activity in the world after drugs. So there's a ton of money involved. There is possibly a great deal of influential and powerful people who are going to lose a large portion of their income if this kind of disgusting, horrific behavior is shut down. So that's one of the ideas, that maybe there are people who are powerful and influential who don't want their cash stream. I mean, there is no proof to that, but if you line up all the dots, there are some, some validity to some of that information. So I'm glad that I thought the film was well done. I've seen so much of the real, interviews on YouTube. I've watched lots of interviews with Tim and a lot of the other people for the last several years. And I'm just glad that the film has the impact that it's having. I'm doing, I do informational segments in street fairs and things like that, just to get the word out there. And I think that it's a good stepping point for people to have heard about this movie and then say, wait a second, what is this really? And once you get into the nitty-gritty of what it really is, people get fired up. They want to become a part of the solution. So I'm really happy that the film had the success that it had. That's my take.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I'm trying to shift now to why it is that it's the surprise summer blockbuster. What is it that's going on in our society now that is influencing the popularity of this film? Anybody want to try and give a take on that? Joan, are you wanting to respond to that?
Could you repeat what you said, Ivan? I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you please repeat
Yeah,
that?
sure. I'm trying to get at why this film became a surprise summer blockbuster. What's going on in society now that is influencing the popularity of this film? Because it pretty much caught everybody by surprise how popular it was. Phyllis, do you?
I'm not exactly sure, but my familiarity with Angel Studios before this movie was The Chosen. And I know lots of groups are watching the series The Chosen. So then you hear, oh, the studio now made another movie and it's at the theater. So I think that was part of it. It's also, I don't know if it's nationwide or what, but there's an online thing called Fathom Events, and they recommend different movies and stuff. And they recommended, this was one of the movies on their list. So I'm just wondering if maybe those were part of the reason it's getting such national coverage.
Yeah, at this point, we're all just speculating.
Right.
Susan Rico.
Oh, hi, everybody. I want to thank Cheryl, who's online. I think she's the one who was in a workshop of mine that I ran here in Orange County in California, and she suggested the film, and I passed it on to Donna, and she said yes. So thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Donna. About the question, I think that to me, it seems like the word went out because it's a faith-based studio. The word went out in the Christian community to support this film and buy extra tickets. Oh. I think that's what fueled it, honestly. And I'm going to make one more comment. I left the film somewhat angry because they have pulled in $200 million, as far as I know, on this film. And I have done so much research trying to figure out where all that money went. And none of it, as far as I can see, has gone to any of these efforts to end trafficking. And so I just wish I could find something on that. That really bothers me, I have to say.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Joan Siegel. Are you there? If not, Rita, since I caught you before, how about jumping in now?
I was just going to say, I actually believe that America has been woken up. I hate to use that term, but we really have been awakened by the divisions in our country. And I think a lot of things that people are very uncomfortable about even considering that other human beings might be doing. I think we've been awakened to understand that we can't just ignore some things, that we need to be courageous and brave and be informed. And so I know that that's probably not, you won't hear people say that, but I really do think that people who are aware and are active in, watching the news, or I do believe that we wonder about some of these things, but it's so heartbreaking and distasteful, and we don't want to believe that it happens. And so I think that might be part of the reason also that it was really popular.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Joan Siegel, looks like you're back. Can you unmute?
Yeah, yes. There were a few things, but I think what made it popular, the media took it and made it divisive. I went to see the movie because I couldn't understand how a movie about child trafficking could be so polarizing. How could it be Republican, Democrat, red, left? Didn't make sense. That's the reason I went to see it. But I think it backfired because so many people went to see it because the media brought it out. That's how you knew about it. It was this, okay. But what bothered me about the movie, I know about child trafficking and child abuse and pedophiles. My job used to have me in touch with many pedophiles. But in the end, when he rescues her, I get upset. There is an entire community that is being enslaved by drug lords. And I'm not saying that we can go in and save them, but the drug use in this country helps to cause that. We are a major problem for these people because we purchase those drug lords' drugs and they enslave the people so they can have it done for free. And I found it upsetting that nothing in the movie seemed to be about every other child that was left, every adult that has children born into this. They're born into the worst kinds of lack of freedom in life. I'm sorry. And that was it. I just found that very sad. No one has paid attention to everyone else.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
How about Cindy?
Okay, so which question am I answering?
Why? What is going on in society that made this the surprise blockbuster?
Maybe a religious revival.
Oh. Yeah, people have mentioned their religious connection with this film. Okay. Is that your comment?
Yeah, and I also I think I have something to add on the border, not on the border, on the controversy, if I may. I think it has to do with the border because you keep saying with the border, there's human trafficking. And the Department of Justice last April and May had a lot of information on their website about child trafficking, which is totally consistent with everything that we've heard tonight. They took that off. So I think it has to do with possibly the political controversy over the border.
All right. Thanks for that. How about Anne B?
Thank you. I totally agree with Joan and Rita in that this movie touched the huge glacier that's underground in this country. And I think it's a moral issue in terms of the movies that we watch that have open sex in them. There's almost nothing that is not touched now that used to be private. And this movie is hitting something that is so deep in all of us, women and men, when it hits children like this. And, you know, we as a society just need to pull back and get our morals back, because we just seem to have let little things pick and pick and pick until we're in this situation now with almost anything goes. And I think religion is the place where we had and felt earlier that we got our morals. And if we can't go back to something like that, I think we're doomed. I don't know. I mean, all of us have a soul, have that something in us that wants to reach out to something beyond ourselves. And to me, I mean, I've found that. I know where I get my morals, and I just wish that everybody else could tap into that and not feel bad about it. I've got the 10 Commandments and I've got the scripture, and that's my moral background. And if we as a country don't get something beyond our own selves, I'm sorry, that's it.
Yeah, all right. Well, many people so far have mentioned a religious connection in this film. Let me shift gears a little bit and talk about how do you think there might be a way to view the film that would help to unite people across the political spectrum. Do you think there are ways to see the film that might be a unifying way? Cheryl, how about you? You haven't heard you on this part. Oh, please unmute.
There we go. Sorry about that. I think there's a lot of ways to unite on this, because basically we all love children. I mean, we all want our children to be protected. And I don't think this is anything to do with politics. I think this has to do with morals. It has to do with good versus evil. And we need to unite to fight this evil. And the evil is coming at us in many ways. I mean, between schools trying to separate parents from their children and keep secrets by not sharing things that may be going on in the schools, the grooming that's being done with some of these, they're trying to sexualize children. These 12-year-olds are being asked to fill out forms to see whether, they're having sex and if it's good for them. I mean, the questions are on these questionnaires are obscene to be asking a child that, still needs to learn math and writing. It's really about power and money. And I think if we go to the sources of power and money and the debauchery that we're seeing in our culture, we will be able to work together to fix this. I mean, we've basically had years of listening to all the things with Epstein and other things that were going on, and at the highest levels of our power. And they're brokering sex for power, and they're trying to capture people using sex and control them. And so it's just a matter of really working on getting to the root of the problem.
All right, thanks for that. Laura, you've been up for a while. Oh,
sorry. I'm just having a tricky time finding the mute button. Okay, so I am not a believer, and I don't think we need organized religion in order to know right from wrong. Certainly not in a situation like this. I think instead of going back to old morals, it might be time for us to bring morals into our present moment. So for me, issues around consent are what underlies so much of what is happening in this discussion and in this issue, and some of the chaos that we're experiencing in our culture. I think that it can get really muddy when you start saying, unless you're a parent with a child in a school where stuff like this is happening, when you hear gossip about things children are supposed to identify whether they're being actively sexual or not. Children, I'm sorry, I'm 66. I knew kids in 8th grade that were having sex. There's nothing new under the sun around this. I think being smarter about it is a much saner approach than, no, we've got to go back, because fear never really gets us where we want to go. The other thing I wanted to say is that surprise liberals, my media bias lives well in NPR. And I didn't hear the story about this movie, but I would have been really upset. And I would have sent them a nasty gram about it, because I felt like, except for the God stuff, which personally I didn't think was necessary in the film, and it was like a titch. I'm highly sensitive about this stuff, though. Was a titch overdone. I felt like the movie was really even-handed, and there was nothing about it that I thought was objectionable at all. And I've got big, bullshit meters and racism meters and all kinds of stuff. So, and I agree that power, follow the money. That's definitely something that that kind of cuts through all of these arguments around this stuff.
all right. Thanks for that. Colleen, you haven't spoken so far, so how about jumping in?
Sure. I think, the question was about unifying, right? If the movie can be
Yes.
unifying. And I guess just what it encourages me, and, I'm here just listening a lot, right, is, and I am a person of faith, and actually have really, really bridged the divide, have really deep connections with people in very conservative circles and very liberal circles. And so I'm really curious about the controversy, and just have done, anyway, okay, I don't need to go my story. I'm just sharing quickly. But I guess the unity, I think, is the Braver Angels way, just listening, being curious. I think, we just so want to defend ourselves, or defend the people we, protect the people we love from the people we're scared of or think are like the bad people. And yeah, so I just find just listening, being curious. It's about fear and power. And for me, I'm learning to just be curious. Like when people are afraid, we're in survival mode and our brain's not working. So be like, oh, that person's like afraid. Like, what are they afraid of? Like, what's their story? What's their experience? Like, like as a person of faith, like tons of people have had very negative, very valid experiences with the church, and of religious. And so it's like, I don't need to defend that. I can be like, whoa, that's real and that sucks. So that's my answer, I guess, just being curious
All right.
and listening. And
Thanks for jumping in. We're running out of time, so let me move on to the next questioner, Ron.
Yeah, great conversation. And just a reminder to those who didn't, the last session that didn't get the answer to their question, we're trying to get, in all cases, try to get new people to speak up. We didn't mention that. We're not ignoring you. I know, Don, you probably had something great to say. I read your message in chat. If nobody saw his message, he addressed about the contribution, and so did another person. So look at the chat because we're getting some great discussions in the chat. Well, my question is about the role of the police officers, or the role of the law enforcement. What is their role in combating, this issue of trafficking and ensuring justice, and what role should it be? And then, because of the fact that we're getting close to, time, try to keep your comment down to about 30 minutes, 30 seconds. 30 minutes would be wow. 30 seconds to a minute, and so we can get more people on it. Well, what role should the law enforcement have in it? How about you, Cindy? Go for it.
Okay, so I was thinking after I saw the movie, I wonder if it's happening in our town, because I live in Bloomington, right by the Mall of America, and supposedly there's a lot of trafficking with the Super Bowl, and like in Bloomington. And so we have an abortion clinic where it seems like there's been a pimp there, and maybe that would be one place to find them and alert the police, so just kind of thinking outside the box, the police would be, what is illegal, what is provable, so I have been thinking about that, after seeing the movie.
Okay.
And, talking to other people, figuring out a plan, but not there yet.
Right. Okay, thank you. Tanya, how about you? Go for it, Tanya.
Just quickly, Cindy, yes, there is trafficking in your town. Pretty much everyone here, yes, there's trafficking in your town. Also about the police, that's a tricky question because the police are some of the biggest consumers.
Wow.
So what's your answer?
Like I say, it's a tricky question because
What about the ones that maybe
are not?
Yeah.
You have to, the thin blue line is problematic in so many ways, and this is one of them. You have to have the good cops policing the bad cops. You have to stop that brotherhood of silence, the wall of silence.
All right. Thank you. Cheryl, how about you?
I think one way that we had some control over it is when at the borders they had DNA testing, and that was keeping a lot of our some of the trafficking that is going on, bringing these children in that don't belong to the people that are crossing the border, but they are just being moved all across the country. And that would be one way of really cutting down on some of this that's happening. And I think our Border Patrol people are just, just so frightened by the fact that that law was changed, that they couldn't DNA test, because they see this every single day and they have no power to do anything about it.
I didn't know that.
Some of
but that wouldn't affect U.S. citizens, would that? I mean, because we have the Constitution. Or does?
Absolutely, it does.
Oh,
unfortunately, it does, because these children are being brought in and moved about the country, and they're going into the hands of traffickers at crazy speed. So, we had ways of changing some of it, but it keeps the laws keep changing to enable it, and that's the frightening part.
Yeah, that would scare me a little bit. But anyway, anyone else on this particular question? Otherwise, I'll move to the next one. Okay, now I am going to focus on you as individuals. How can you contribute to the creating a society where vulnerable individuals are less susceptible to trafficking? And more specifically, how can the society work on ending the exploitation of children online? How can you get involved with that? And I'll just go ahead, since you have talked pretty much, I'll ask you, Rita. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is that I believe that we should be educated about some of these things, because one of the things that I recall, and it's been many, many years ago, and I don't remember the exact situation, but I remember someone that I knew saying to me that they recognized the signs of a child that they had seen, and they believed that child was being trafficked. Now, I didn't know, at that age, it's been several years ago. I wasn't that aware of that, but I remember being struck that I'm thinking to myself, well, what is it that we didn't really talk about it, but it was like, I'm thinking to myself, what is it that, clued her to that, so I believe that there are people that we can be educated about those things. I just don't know where to get that education. But
so you just saying, just be aware using your common sense and maybe report it. And then
if you see something that makes you feel real and I don't want anyone to be alarmist. I'm not an alarmist. I try to be, logical and not just be emotional at the first thing. But that's why I'm saying, if there are people that work in this industry to help, rescue children, there may be some things that they have to offer to us that can really help us to understand that this is a child we should be maybe watching a little bit more closely.
So what I would suggest to everyone is to seek out those organizations and maybe set up a presentation and whatever your 100-foot circle of influence is, and get that education. So thank you, Rita. Cindy, how about you next?
There's something that I already did, which hopefully is having an effect, which I think could be transferred. So we're a Democratic state, but a lot of Republican states had passed legislation checking IDs for minors online for pornography sites, something like that. I emailed my state senator. She said, we should do it. Thanks for sharing this great article. I think we can do something like that. So there might be things that we can do through our state legislatures as well. This is just getting into the media. I'm kind of brainstorming here, so I apologize for that. I'm very excited about this conversation and listening to everyone's ideas. So excuse the brainstorming out loud.
Yeah, it just shows me that you're listening with your mind and not just with your ears. So that's pretty good.
That's called verbal processing. I know about it really well.
So I apologize doing that in front of however many people it is.
Oh, that's okay. We won't remember you. Yes, we will. Anyway, I'm going to skip to Casey because she hasn't spoken, and then I'll come back to Susan. How about that?
I've spoken plenty in the chat. Thanks. I just wanted to respond to Rita, and it would be a good idea to go online and verify this. But I was told that the symbol or sign that you would watch for from somebody trying to ask for help would be if they were to put out a hand and very slowly lower their fingers. And they have had children actually rescued because they've made that symbol to cars going by, and they've been able to call in and pull them over. So it is a difficult thing, because you could have, you could teach your children this, and then they could be mad at their parents one day and do it. So, but I think it's valuable to be aware of that. And if you see that, use your gut. It could save a child.
All right. Thank you very much. How about you, Susan?
So I might sound like a broken record, but OUR Rescue really has taught me a lot. Their page, it's OURrescue.org, and there are videos on there about how to recognize a victim of child trafficking. Things like, not being, clean and not being afraid to be touched. There's a lot of things. There's an entire organization with stewardesses on, or attendants on airplanes, being trained on how to recognize a victim. There's work that we have done with the PTAs in many school districts, especially during the pandemic, about how to recognize internet safety and how to make sure that your child is being safe on the internet. And it was stuff that I was surprised people didn't know, but a lot of people don't know it. So Operation, OUR Rescue does have a lot of great resources. I'm sure there's other places, but I have learned a ton from that. And there are some pretty clear-cut ways to recognize. I've become one of those really annoying people. I go to the airport and I'm looking around, like, trying to see if I can help somebody. So there are signs that we can look for. And I got to tell you, if somebody accused me of being, thought my child was a victim and tried to save her, I wouldn't be mad at them. They were trying.
Thank you very much, Susan. And put that in the chat too, that organization. And then, so how are we doing, guys, on the time? Should I just switch to Molly and not have the third question? Are you good?
Actually, we are at 9:30, which is our stop. So I think it's probably time. Yeah, time went by so fast, I know.
Yeah.
But we try to keep this down to an hour and a half. So with that, what I'd like to do is graze our next movie. We're going to do two things. The first thing is to talk about our next movie, and then the second thing is Ron is going to come back and talk a little bit about Braver Angels. So our next movie for October is called Join or Die. Pretty dramatic title, but it's a documentary about Robert Putnam, who is the author of Bowling Alone. That came out in 2000, but it's just as relevant now as it was then. And it is about how important it is to join organizations and clubs, both for our mental health and our psychological health. So that book was showing how actually the number of people joining clubs has precipitously declined over time. I'm afraid it's still quite low. This movie is hopefully going to, again, advertise how important it is. So in order to watch that movie, I'll put it in the, it's in the chat, I'll do it again, but you need to register with our partner, the Village Square, by October 4th. They'll send you a link, and then for you to watch that movie. And then they're having a webinar on Join or Die with Robert Putnam on October 5th. So this is a two-part event, because then we are going to have our standard film discussion of it on October 18th. And with our discussion, the problem with the webinar is people can't talk to each other. It's really just the people, the experts at the webinar. So with our discussion, we will be talking amongst ourselves about our experiences, or perhaps our older relatives' experiences with clubs and organizations, and the importance of that. So I'm going to put that in the chat again. And then I'm going to hand over now to, so it's October 5th is going to be part one, which is the webinar with Village Square, and then October 18th is going to be our own discussion of Join or Die. Okay, Ron?
Okay, all right. I see, Molly, you have your hand up. You didn't want to say anything before I close this out?
Sorry, I forgot it was up, but I'll say it really quickly instead of putting it in the chat. If one thing that did not come up tonight, but I hope it could if people know it already, is in the chat, or feel free to email the organizers. I would love to hear if there are any, especially bipartisan bills out there that we can support around fighting trafficking. Like, I love being in touch with my Congress people. If there's like something I want to support, if you know of anything that's like making it harder to reach kids online, or making it easier to what's the word, prosecute people who are perpetrating child trafficking, please feel free to throw up those bills or legislation, and then also feel free to email organizers. So thank you. That was all.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to tell you something. This was the movie itself that we just experienced, our discussion was powerful. I almost wish we could do a 2.0, maybe have it next month, because I tell you what, when I went to see that movie, I shed a tear, and I tell you, I didn't know it was such a big, gigantic problem that it is. But anyway, thank you so much for joining tonight. Now, what Donna said about the next movie, I saw that movie this afternoon, and it's appropriate for me to be speaking about your presence and joining Braver Angels, because if you've been inspired by our conversation and are eager to be part of a movement dedicated to bridging the divide and fostering understanding, that's what Braver Angels is all about. To learn more about it, of course, we shared about going to our website, braverangels.org. And for those of you who are already members, you can listen to this message as well. Together, we can make a difference. And your voice is valuable. Your voice is so valuable, it only will be $1 a month. And think about it, what can you get for $1? And our mission is clear. We want to bridge the divide. We want to build trust with citizens in this country. We don't want to have all these civil polarized. We want to have these. We don't want to have these polarizing arguments, but we want to have civil conversation. Why join Brave Angels? Because it's not good for you, just good for you. It's good for all of us. That is from the next movie. That particular quote. It says, it's right for you to get involved. And then it quotes our famous president, okay? And what did John F. Kennedy say? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Join Bravery Angels, and together, let's do something great for our country and for all Americans. You see, at Bravery Angels, we are a mission of volunteers. And that's where we excel at. And we try to reflect America. But we can only do that if you are active and you work hard and have what I call a positive mental attitude. Think about it. Those of you who are members, activate yourself. Go to your alliance. Ask them, what can you do? Tell them we want to bring that presentation about the movie we just saw. We want to discuss it. Anyway, my name is Ron Sugarberry McFarland. And boy, you'll get an opportunity to meet me, and I try to be a positive person in everything I do. Come back next month and see our smiling faces again. Now, with that, let's close out with the Bravery Angels way. And you guys have a nice evening. Thank you very much for your participation.